For this video, you're going to want to download the connection methods for chords fourth and fifth apart summary that I made. It's got a review of the first three methods that we used when the chords were the same. We're going to be referring to this today. And you're going to want to download two very similar looking answer worksheets. One is, it says answers on both, shouldn't. One is open and free, and it's going to go through. We're going to demonstrate all of the connection methods and why they work and why they don't. And then there's answers for reference later. You just want that for yourself so that you've got it right as well. And then there's a worksheet for practice that will spread out over the days to come here. Your textbook has, how shall I say, very correct summaries of how to connect chords. So for instance, chords that are in root position with repeated roots. In other words, that's the move with soprano and the contrary motion voice exchange and similar motion voice exchange. But because they're trying to cover all their bases, because we want to write in 4 parts and 3 parts, there's the rules get squishy. And so they don't say things like do this, do this, do this. They say, gee, when you do this, you probably want all of the triad there, and you want to double the root and stuff like that. And that's all true, but it doesn't help us learn things quickly. And so what I did was I summarized best practices for about 90% of the cases you're going to need this for. And that's the move with soprano, contrary motion voice exchange, and similar motion voice exchange. When you have these guys down, then we can look at the variants that happen, okay? Today, we're going to look at the chords fourth and fifth apart. And what that means is if you have 2 root position chords that you want to get from one to the next one, and the roots or the names of the chords, the spellings, are a fourth or a fifth apart. So like C going up to G is a fifth. So C chord to a G chord, or C going down to G is a fourth. It's the same thing, just depending on which direction you travel. And if you look in the book, they have very accurate descriptions, common tone and stepwise, similar motion by second or third. But these are basically almost, and then like tertian leap, common tone, stepwise. Boy, the names are, you have to memorize the entire method just to understand the names. So I've summarized them again on here, and we'll give them these names for now. Common tone, non, actually. Let's change this to not common tone, just to distinguish it. Okay. And then something called tertian leap. I'm going to demonstrate all of these for you, explore it a bit, and then send you off on some homework. It's always fine to go back to your textbook, though, and look at the examples there. In fact, we will do that at some point, but if what we do today does not suffice, it starts on page 83 in your book, and you can go through and do some parallel work there. All right, so I've got my not answers, though it says answers, page right here, and I've got my connection method summaries. When you do these, for the first while, until you have them memorized, in fact, a separate practice, you could do this as well, you should just memorize this like it's a mantra that you've been told to brainwash yourself with. Root to root, common tone holds over, remaining 2 notes move by step in the same direction. That's how we do this. So, got to be able to spell your chords. The chords have to be set up correctly to begin with. And correctly means that it has a root, a third, and a fifth. So that's complete with doubled root. And it's in root position. These are all root position chord connection methods. All right. So we are here on a G chord, right? And we're going to be going from a G chord, I think, to a C chord right here, okay? In fact, I think that's the case for all of these. It's always going to be G to C. So G to C, G to C, G to C, just so that you get this, the formula in your head without having to worry about other things. In other words, we're going 5, 1 on all of these guys. All right, so root to root. Well, we're going to talking about the bass whenever we say that, the root to root, because it's in root position. So if I'm going from G chord to a C chord, I find my bass note, which is the root right down here. And I go and write it there as well. Remember, it's the bass line, so the stems go down. Okay. Remember, all of these, then they say root to root. We're talking about the bass line. We just sort of get that out of the way. All right. Then the common tone holds over. What that means is somewhere between a G chord and a C chord, there is a note that they have in common. That is the G right there, G, B, D, C, E, G, and we hold that over. It doesn't move. So we've gone good, good. The last two notes move in the same direction, okay, by step. So you can't just go any direction. Let me explain what I mean by that. Like this D, I'm going to just put these ahead here. You could go up to the E by step, or you could go down to the C by step. That would work, but they have to move by step in the same direction. So if we go up, we'll get to the C and we'll have a C and an E. That works. But if we came down on this note right there, we would get an A, which is not part of the C chord, and we would not have spelled our chords correctly. So you have to check it. But it looks like if D steps up and B steps up, they get chord tones here. But if they step down, because they both have to go in the same direction according to the formula, then we get a non-chord tone and we don't spell our C chord. So I'm going to take these guys up. D goes to the E. Remember, it's alto, so it's stems down. B goes up to the C. And there we go. It says check to make sure you ended up with a correct spelled chord with two roots, a third and a fifth. This is where you catch that in case you make the mistake and go the wrong way. C, C, E, G. Two roots, a third and a fifth. Okay. If your spacing and spelling and everything is good here, then it will be good here as well if you use this. Okay. So we went common tone, root to root from the two chords, common tone held over, and then these two other voices had to move in the same direction by step. All right. Now this next situation here is set up to fail because sometimes, this is our go-to method, by the way, but sometimes it's just not going to work. And so we're going to see it fail here. And then we're going to use a new method called not or non-common tone. Okay. And it's basically not that. So let's try common tone here, which is root to root. It's the G chord going to a C chord, right? And I hope you're doing this with me, right? All right. Now we find our common tone, which is G, right there, like that. Okay. That holds over just like it did before. All right. Now, if it's common tone, the other two voices have to step in the same direction, right? In the same direction by step. Well, this steps down, but if this steps down right there, then we check ourselves and we have a C and an A and a G and a C, and this is not correct. So you can't follow the formula here because the melody which is given does not follow the formula. So we have other options. Again, this doesn't work because the melody, which is pre-prescribed in this case, we want our melody to do this, makes it so that the formula fails because stepping this guy down, that would be giving us an A. And, you know, if we stepped it in the other direction, then we're not stepping them at the same, in the same direction, but, you know, say, well, that's a chord tone, let's do that. But then we've got C, 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 and G, we're missing the third. Sounds really, really weird. So this just can't work. Okay, it can't work as common tone. Okay, and that's because of the way the melody was set up. There are some situations where the melody goes where it doesn't allow you to do the formula. So now let's try what's called not common tone. Okay, so it looks pretty simple. Root to root. So we go root. It's the same setup here. We're just going to use this other method. Root to root. Bass line we're talking about. So G goes down to C, stems down because it's the bass line. Okay, and then it says all upper voices, that's these three here, right? Not the bass voice, move in the same direction to the next chord tone. So this is moving down to the next chord tone in the C chord right here. So this guy will have to move down to the next chord tone, and that would be the E, because C, E, G. And then this chord right here would move down to the next chord tone in the C chord coming up, and that would be a G. I hope you start to realize why it's so important to be able to spell chords quickly and think of what's next in the chord, upside down, backwards, inside out. Okay. There is a tendency, because common tone is so stable and easy to write, It's the first thing we learn too. When we see this common tone here, to want to hold that over. But if we've done that, we've been trapped, right? For non-common tone, you resist the urge. There are no common tones but like that you're holding over in this method. You say, oh, well, my melody is going this way and common tone didn't work. I will take all the other notes and move them downwards because they're going in the same direction as this to the next tone in this chord coming up. If the soprano had magically gone up and we were using non-chord tone, then they would have all gone up as well. And the bass just does what the bass does. That's not common tone, okay? Or non-common tone. All right. Tertian leap. Tertian leap is a funny name. Tertian means 3 or third. And so this is a weird hybrid of these other two methods. And it's for a very special case, we're going to spend way more time on it than we would normally need to, because this will only show up in about 10% of our writing. This will be what we do for about the other 90% of the time, but we're going to learn it anyways. Here's the method. Root to root. This is the bass line always, right? So G goes down to C. Good so far. Now here's where it gets a little weird. Third of the first chord skips, usually by a fourth, to the third of the second chord. Let's make sure we understand what that means. The third of this chord, which is G, B, D, there it is right there, is going to skip to the third of this chord. That's why they call it tertian leap, because third leaps to third and tertian means third, okay? And usually this is going to be a distance of a fourth interval, meaning like here's my B right here. You could go down to E, but that would be a fifth. See, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or if you go up to E, 1, 2, 3, 4, like 1, 2, 3, 4. So you want to go in the direction usually that you have a fourth leap. It's already done for us right here. Okay, so we couldn't get that wrong. Okay, and then what do? Sort of a combination of the other things. We hold the common tone over. Okay, right there. G is common between G and C. Okay, and then this one has to move by step to fill out the chord properly. See, it says last voice moves by step to the chord tone that completes the root, root, third, fifth. Okay, that's what we want. So this could go up to the E or down to the C. Let's see what we need here. We have a C, we have an E, and we have a G. What we want are two C's or two roots, right? Root, root, and a third and a fifth. So we're going to go down to the C. Okay, right there. If we went up to the E, it would be a chord tone. It wouldn't sound terrible, but then you get C, E, E, and G, and you'd have double thirds instead of double roots. And that becomes important as we get to more nuanced kinds of sounds. All right, those are our methods. Now, when you do your practice, you want to say root to root, common tone holds over remaining two notes, move by step, do the check. Root to root, okay, first ones we're always talking about bass lines, right? Then all the upper voices move in the same direction. Resist the urge to hold a common tone over, right? Double do your checks. Tertian leap, third of the first chord leaps to the third of the next chord, right? Usually it's an interval of a fourth that they've leapt, and then common tone holds over, and the last note has to move in the direction that will fill it out so you get root, root, third, fifth. Okay, you have a worksheet coming up where you get to do a whole line of those. And in addition to just filling out the notes, it's really important that you say this until you know it. Hopefully what you do is you memorize it ahead of time a little bit, and then you just do it and say it without looking here, because we want to get to the point where it's absolutely natural for you to do this. All right.